He continues saying in verse 20 that people suppress the external knowledge of the Creator, not internally anymore, but the things that they're seeing. Creation around them testifies that there's a Creator, that there is a God. That's what David proclaimed about 2,500 years ago in Psalm 19. Go with me if you like. Psalm 19 verses 1-3 says this: the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. Day unto day they utter speech, and night unto night reveals knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voices are not heard. The heavens has spoken to every tongue, culture, society throughout all of history. They look up and say, that is incredible. Look at the Mayans. Look at the Incas. Look at the Mesopotamians. Look at the Egyptians. They all look at the sky and thought there's something out there. They didn't know about Jesus, but they knew there was a Creator. All you have to do is gaze into the deep space through a telescope and see evidence of his great power. Oh man, the more you study science, the more you should be amazed at the power of our Creator. I don't know if you know this. We are a privileged planet. I know there's a lot of talk about privilege these days, but we are a privileged planet. If we were 5 degrees closer to the sun, you know what would happen to us? We would burn. If we were 5 degrees farther away from where we are in the rotation of the earth around the sun, you know what would happen to us? We will freeze. We are in the middle of this clearing in which we can observe the universe. It's called the observable universe. If we were moved a little bit more to any other direction, we could not see out because all of these cosmic clouds will be covering our view. God put you here so you can see his power. It was John Calvin, another guy from the comic strips. John Calvin used to be a church writer for many years back. And I love what he said about this. He said, by saying that God has made it manifest, he means that man was created to be a spectator of this formed world, and that the eyes were given him that he might, by looking on so beautiful a picture, be led up to the author himself. Nature itself is the best argument for intelligent design. That's right. You hear that? That was for you. We brought sound effects this week. Nature itself is the best argument for intelligent design, leaving men and women without one single excuse. There's no such thing as an atheist. But I'm an atheist. People say, no, you're not. You know what an atheist means? That without a doubt, you have looked everywhere in the entire universe, in every single dimension. You looked everywhere in this room. You picked up every single chair. You opened every single door. You opened every single cabinet and saw for yourself that there's not a God. No one can do that. No one has done that. That's what being an atheist means. Therefore, there's no one single atheist, because none of them have traveled and opened every single window, every single door, every single cabinet, not even in the city of McAllen, to look for God. There are people who call themselves agnostics. They might be agnostics. The word agnostic means, I don't know. That's what it means. Gnosko is the first word, the root word, gnosko, to know. But you put an A in front of it, it cancels it out. It means, I don't know. In the Latin, I don't know if you know this, and you can tell them, and it's true. The word is ignoramus. And so when they tell me I'm an agnostic, I'm like, oh, so you're an ignoramus. Oh, that's very nice. It means I don't know. I believe that. But there's not a such thing as an atheist. They want to build it up, but they cannot prove that reality that there's a God. Excuse me, they're not going to prove there's not a God. They can see clearly the evidence that there is a God. And so if you want to excuse your sin, you're stuck with a big problem. How am I going to justify all of this creation? How am I going to justify that there's not a God and nullify his existence so I can be okay with my sin? So my conscience, I can justify my sin. That's the root of that argument. So what happened in 1859? Darwin came into the scene and wrote a book, The Origin of the Species. Oh man, and the world in such an exciting moment trying to get rid of God, they grabbed it and run with it. The problem with that book, the problem with the theory of evolution is that it breaks so many laws of nature. It's bad science. Let me tell you just a couple. One of my favorites that he breaks, and I laugh so hard about it, is that the second law of thermodynamics. What is the second law of thermodynamics? Everything is in a state of decay. Everything is falling apart. How many of you guys got a 2018 car? I don't have it. Your car's falling apart. I have a 2007 car, not 2017, no, 2007 van. That thing is a running miracle. It drives by faith. By faith we make it anywhere on that van. And we love it, don't get me wrong. But it's not getting any better. It's not getting any better every single day. Oh, look at it. Now it has new rims. I didn't do anything. No, everything is in a state of decay except evolution. Evolution states that when that surge of energy landed on the ponds of scum, that the second law of thermodynamics stopped applying to it, and it went from nothing into something. That it got better with time instead of falling apart with time. How many of you guys here are over and above the age of 40? You know what I mean. We're falling apart. You're not getting any better. We're going downhill at this point. You see, that's the reality. Things are falling apart, but the theory of evolution is telling you, no, things are getting better and better and better. No, it doesn't work that way. Everything in creation, you can see that somebody created. Look at this building. I think it's 17 floors. For every floor, you need to have at least 12 parts built in. That's just the structural part of it. And nobody will look at this building and say, wow, boy, I wonder what kind of mountain that was for the last 6 billion years. That it turned so perfect into glass, into structure. It doesn't happen. It had a creator. Somebody designed it. Look at a tiny car. Those tiny cars have 30,000 parts. 30,000 parts. I have a very old truck and I still don't get it. It has 12 cables and I cannot figure it out. I'm like, where do they go? Somebody designed it and they put their emblem on them. It's a Kia. Oh man, maybe you shouldn't put it on. They're proud of their cars. We designed them, we made them, we built them. And then look at your body. You are the most complicated hardware and software ever known to man, without a doubt. And they say, oh, it's a result of evolutionary roulette. It happened over chances and chances and chances. No, it did not happen by chance. Nothing happens by chance. That's preposterous. Darwin's premise is based on the simple cell. The whole thing of evolution is based on the simple cell. There's only one problem. You know what the problem is? There's no such thing as a simple cell anywhere in creation. Everything has been made on purpose. Look at your eye. Have you guys ever studied the eye? It's fascinating. You have inside your eye, on the back of it, on the retina, you have 91 million rods that all happen to fall onto place at the right time, apparently. 4.5 million cones lay in the back of your eye. All of them combined can see a total of over 1 million different shades of color. And there's a chemical library in your brain, like a cabinet, where each color is identified by a chemical. And that chemical is sent on the optic nerve back into the back of your brain where you have vision. And in there, you see an image. Not here, back here. Here's something that fascinates the scientists. There's a screen in your head that we cannot find. It happens back here and nobody knows how it works that you can see. But it's such an intelligent design that when you close your eyes and you pray for your loved ones, how many times you can almost see them right there? I'm like, you just look back and draw some of those files out to remember their faces. You're going to tell me that happens by chance. No. You're a created being. Look at the DNA. One single cell has DNA, obviously, but if you stretch out a tiny amount of DNA that is in one single cell, it spans 6 feet tall. What is the DNA? That is your software. Have you guys ever tried to mess around with software? For a couple of times I built a website for the church, and let me tell you, I built the servers and all those fun things. That was a lot of work for an ugly website. It wasn't a pretty website. You could have a phone number in there, but it was like lines and lines and lines of code, and copy this and paste that and put this in here and put that in there, and then you cross your fingers and you hope that it works. For a website, you have DNA embedded in your software. One single cell, if you stretch out all that information, the little strand of DNA is about 6 feet tall. If you were to stretch all of the DNA in your body from all of your cells, it would reach 100 billion miles of code. That is going across the solar system 14 times. How many of you guys will look at a book like the Bible? It has words, information in order. Do you notice that? So it can make sense. And you wouldn't say, oh, I just picked it up by the lake. It came crawling out of the water. All these words, all of a sudden they got put together so good in a cohesive message. No, it doesn't happen by chance. You were coded. So they wantonly suppress the truth of God. Why? Verse 21 says this. Look what it says in 21 to 23. Because although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of an incorruptible God into an image made like corruptible men and birds and four-footed animals and creeping things. Do you notice that? They wantonly suppress the glory of God, the knowledge of God, with a tragic result. Professing to be wise, they truly found themselves to be fools. When truth is rejected, the ability to recognize and receive truth is impaired. Jesus Christ himself spoke about this. John chapter 3, you know the chapter for sure, but look what it says in verse 19. John chapter 3, verse 19 and 20. Jesus speaking of the truth and light. He says this, and this is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world, and men loved darkness, and that is the word agapetos. They sacrificially loved darkness rather than the light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone practicing evil hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed. They rejected the truth of God. Why? Because they knew what they were doing was wrong. When the source of truth, of wisdom is rejected. What is the source of wisdom? Who knows? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Psalm 110:10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. When you reject the source of wisdom, all of their claims They're just idle boast. Progressively, they became fools. The word fooling here comes from the word morone. Well, you know what that means? That's where we get the word morons. More and more they became more moronic, more morons. They got more stupefied. Let me clarify for you. They didn't get smarter. Demonstrated by the fact that they traded the worship of a living God to worship men, to worship self, to worship idols. That is a bad trade. When we trade the goodness, the love of God for self-worship, is a bad trade. Because he hasn't changed the fact that you will be accountable to God. Man's refusal to acknowledge and glorify God leads to this terrible downward path. First, wordless thinking. Next, we see moral insensitivity, and then religious stupidity. They begin to worship what is not God. Go back to Isaiah in your own time, Isaiah chapter 44, 9 to 20. You have in there the perfect example. Isaiah says, speaking to the Lord, how dumb can you be? You go to the field, you chop down a tree, you cut it in half. With half of it, you cook a meal, and the other half, you'd make it an idol and you worship it and say, oh, thank you for providing for me. He says, like, that is stupid, man. Come on. That makes no sense. It's the same wood that burned up. It's the same wood.